In today's episode, we discuss the 5-inversion multi-launch coaster that was preceded by thunder and lightning. Welcome to Airtime Traveler. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Roller Coaster History Podcast. You are listening to Airtime Traveler. My name is Nathan Grace, and I'm joined by my wife and lovely co-host.
Hey, I'm Haley Grace.
And thank you for tuning in to episode 35. That's a
big accomplishment.
It's a big accomplishment. It's like, I don't know, it's like a big accomplishment, but it's also not like a number of people celebrate a lot. I don't know.
I guess we can celebrate 40.
40 would be bigger. That won't be till season 3, but that's okay.
Yeah.
50 will obviously be that'll be the big one. So
that'll be fun. We'll have to do a really special episode for that.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe we'll have to go to a new park. Maybe that could give us an excuse to go to a new park.
Oh, there you go. Have to do a brand new park for episode 50, something like that.
Go to Dallas.
Go to Six Flags over Texas.
Yeah.
Go to Cedar Fair over Texas.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Well, if this is your first time listening to the podcast here at Airtime Traveler, we take one roller coaster and we dive into the history of that roller coaster. So my name is, I am a
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Guys, if you're new to the podcast, we just had a baby a few weeks ago. So we've been trying to start recording this for an hour and a half, and it just took us that long to get kids settled so that we could record. So apologize for any slip-ups and mistakes. And I am a coaster enthusiast and have been for a long time, and my wife Haley is a member of the GP or the general public. So I'm here to do the research and tell the stories, and she is here to listen and to make me more interesting. So
always. That's
how it goes. And also we have our dog is in here, and our baby is asleep on my wife. So if you hear any grunts or
little baby
snores or anything, it's either the dog or the baby. So
one of the two.
Yep. So. If you haven't yet, you could go and follow us on social media. We are on Twitter/X or on Instagram. Our handle on both of those is @Airtime Traveler. And you can go and follow along with the episode today. I'll post the pictures and videos and stuff that I'll be showing Haley throughout today's episode. So if you want to kind of follow along, you can do that. And also, we're just having conversations over on social media about different things going on in the industry. For example, IAAPA is going on this week.
Oh,
so
is that why the fire in the hole thing?
Yeah, that's why that's why they unveiled the fire in the hole trains.
I thought it looked like IAAPA, but I wasn't 100% certain.
Yeah. So
I may be part of the general public, but I've learned a thing or two.
Yeah, she's listened to me talk for. I mean, if we're counting the podcast, I mean, that's at least 50 hours worth of listening to me, let alone all the stuff I talk about outside of recording. That's
also true, yeah.
So, yeah. IAAPA, if you're not familiar, IAAPA is basically the number one expo or convention when it comes to the amusement industry. And so there's been a lot of announcements and over the past couple days.
Yeah, so you probably haven't told me all of them.
Yeah,
but
there really hasn't been any announcements for like coasters that we didn't already know about. Most of it's just been revealing the train for an upcoming coaster that was already announced, or just extra details about something. So the big news that I wanted to just take a couple minutes to talk about, just because we never really got a chance to, and it's happened since our last episode, the Six Flags and Cedar Fair merger.
So when is that officially happening?
So there's still a lot of legal red tape that you have to go through to kind of finalize everything. So the initial announcement was that they were aiming for a spring 2024 is when everything would be finalized. So now, obviously, they still have to get approval for that from government regulations, but also from shareholders and different things like that. So, for example, I know one of Six Flags' not largest, but one of their major shareholders did publicly say that they were going to reject it because they felt that Six Flags was It's funny because I don't necessarily agree with the Six Flags and Cedar Fair merger. I'm not thrilled about it, but the company that was one of Six Flags investors or shareholders that was saying they were going to vote against it basically said that they felt the parks were more valuable as real estate than anything. So I'm like, oh, well, this company just wants to sell all the parks and get all the money from the real estate. So they don't even... So it's like some of these people are like going to vote against it, but they're voting against it because they don't want the parks to even exist. They just want the money from the real estate value of the parks. So yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky thing. Like, both chains have things that they are good at. Like, Cedar Fair has been very good at recently with, doing themed areas and telling original stories. Cedar Fair, I feel, has had a better focus on record-breaking coasters over time. Mm-hmm. They're the only chain that's invested in Giga coasters, so all 5 of the Giga coasters in the country are all Cedar Fair. No, Six Flags hasn't built any of them. Cedar Fair's been... some of their policies I agree with more, like their parking has been way better than Six Flags. Six Flags charges so much for parking, and I don't know, there's a lot of things I could go into, but Six Flags has been innovative in ways that Cedar Fair hasn't. I mean, RMC took off because Six Flags took a chance on them.
Right.
And the first 4 or 5 RMC I'd have to check that. The first several RMC conversions were all at Six Flags parks.
Interesting.
And so, and Six Flags has the tallest coaster in the world right now at Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey. So,
the tallest, even the new one that got announced.
Oh well, that one hasn't been built yet. That one, but that's also Six Flags.
Is it?
Yeah, it's Six Flags in Saudi Arabia, but it is a Six Flags park. So that's what I mean. Like, both chains have things that they're good at. So like, if you are able to take the best of both worlds and combine it into one, then sure, yeah, I guess the merger between the two could be great. The 2 main concerns I have, well, I have 3 concerns. One of them's not like a huge concern. It wouldn't keep me from going to parks, but it would be a pet peeve. I don't want all the Cedar Fair parks to just turn into DC Six Flags parks.
Agreed.
Like, I don't want Superman, Man of Steel Vengeance, and
I really don't think they're gonna rename everything, though. I don't think so either, especially because the new CEO is the Cedar Fair CEO is going to be the new CEO of the new company, which, by the way, it's going to stay Six Flags is going to be the name of the company, which, to be fair, I think is smart, because I think Six Flags is a more recognized brand. Like, before I got into the coaster industry, had you even heard of Cedar Fair? No.
Exactly. Most people, like, my family knows what Cedar Fair means, but most people that I talk to really don't. Now, once I explain it, that it's Cedar Point and Kings Island, and like I explain which parks, they've generally heard of the parks that are a part of the chain, but they don't even realize that they're all part of the same chain. Yeah. Whereas the Six Flags parks, it's so obvious because they're all named Six Flags St. Louis over Texas, whatever. Right. So I do think it is smart to stick with the Six Flags name, because I think that's more generally recognized in the country. I do think it's quite possible you might see, instead of, it's not going to be like Cedar Point is going to become Six Flags over Ohio or whatever. I do think it's more likely that the official names of the parks could turn into, like, Cedar Point, a Six Flags park.
Like, that's kind of how they'll go with that direction. Or
I could see that.
Carowinds, a Six Flags park.
Would you be okay with that?
That's what I would prefer. If they have to change the name of the park, that's what I would prefer. Instead of trying to completely rename. Because some of these parks have been... I mean, they've had the same name forever. Right. So you can't change it too much. Like, Cedar Point, Kings Island, Kings Dominion, Carowinds, all of those have been around for more than 50 years. So, and they've had the same name more than, they've had little changes like Paramount's Kings Island or, whatever. But
well, and they would have to change everything in the park too, because there's signs that say there's so many different things that say like Kings Island, Kings Dominion, Cedar Point, yada yada. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, it would be way too complicated, and so I don't think that's what's going to happen. But I just really hope that the DC stuff has never been an appeal to me. Like, I don't know. And part of
you're also a Marvel fan.
That's the thing. I'm a little biased, to be fair, but I also think that some of the DC stuff they do is rather uninspired. Like, every single Six Flags park, almost every single Six Flags park, their inverted coaster is called Batman the Ride.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. If they even just were slightly different, like just give each park a little bit of their own personality,
right, I
think that would go a long way. But anyway.
We'll see.
Yeah, so I don't want DC to just be thrown all over the Cedar Fair parks. But that one, if they did do that, that wouldn't keep me away. That wouldn't prevent me from going to Cedar Point just because DC was at Cedar Point now, You
want to go to Six Flags anyways, so it's like...
I do, and that's the thing. Like, I don't necessarily have anything against Six Flags, except for the fact... Here's my main difficulty that I have with Six Flags, and I haven't been to Six Flags parks for a long time. So this is really just what I know as my knowledge of, knowing things in the industry and from people I've talked to, and just keeping my thumb on the pulse of the industry. Six Flags Magic Mountain is their flagship park, right? That's their Cedar Point.
Right.
And so that park I've been thinking about before all this happened. You and I have been talking about maybe this year we try to do the Six Flags thing, right?
Right.
Get their premium pass or whatever and try to hit as many Six Flags parks in a year. Don't know if that's going to happen now with the baby and all that, that's a whole other story. But so I've been looking at Six Flags Magic Mountain because I'll be in California in March. And so I've been toying around the idea of going to Magic Mountain. And so I've been just looking at wait times, and you can pull up Magic Mountain on any given day, and they have 20 coasters, and they might have like 12 of them open. Like, that's crazy to have that many coasters and only have, 60% of your roller coasters operating at any given time. Yeah. So operationally, Six Flags is where I really struggle. Like, Six Flags has so many great rides, so many great coasters that, they've spent time and money to develop, and, but operationally, if you can't even get them all open, then what's the point?
Right.
So if that would be my number one complaint with Six Flags, is just the operations have to be better if this is going to happen. And
so I guess our listeners, do you agree with that? Like,
yeah, I would be interested to hear all of your thoughts on the merger. So yeah. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of it, but I'm not like gonna boycott all the parks if it happens. You know what I mean? Right. Like, I'm not that strongly opinionated about it.
No,
So.
Yeah.
But
no, I think it could be good. But
it could be good.
It could tank. It could be good.
I worry that I've heard a lot, and there's been differing opinions on this, on whether I've always considered Six Flags and Cedar Fair to be competitors, right, because they both kind of fill the same need in the amusement industry,
yes,
which is they're not Disney, but they're not your little regional carnival park either. They're somewhere in the middle there, right? They're like, they're a big chain with big parks and big coasters, but they're not the premier parks. They're not the Disneys and the Universals of the amusement industry, right?
Right.
And so to me, they both kind of fill that same need as like kind of a regional park, but some of their bigger parks you could consider a national, like pulling it. Like Cedar Point pulls people in from all over the country, right?
Right.
But like Worlds of Fun probably doesn't. And Six Flags the same way. Magic Mountain will pull people in from all over the country, but some of their smaller parks like Six Flags America probably doesn't.
Yeah.
So, whereas Disney and Universal, they pull from the whole world.
Yeah.
So that's the difference, right? And so I've always felt that they're competitors, and when you get rid of competition, that prevents like that
like innovativeness.
Yes, exactly. It prevents them from being willing to innovate because there's nothing to compete against. Right. So why innovate? Why, you know, if
why be bigger and better?
Exactly. Like
our competitor is not a thing anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
When this happens, their main competitor is going to be the SeaWorld parks, which there's only 5 of. Now, the SeaWorld parks are doing awesome stuff right now.
Are.
Easily my favorite chain as far as directionally where they're going right now is the SeaWorld parks. So that alone is kind of exciting. The fact that those 5 parks are just the trajectory that they're doing really great stuff right now. But when you have 5 against a chain of 42 parks or whatever it is that the new merged Six Flags company is going to be, I wonder, is that really competition? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, at that point, it's basically the same amount of competition as Silver Dollar City and Hershey Park and Kennywood and some of these smaller chains or parks that are just, I can't think of the word right now. It's just one park, right? That's not part of a chain. So, I don't know. Anyway, I've talked for longer than I should. Probably should have done a Coaster Conversations episode about the merger, but anyway, I do want to hear your thoughts. So if you want to comment on this episode, if you're listening on Spotify, or if you want to throw something up on Twitter and tag us in it or Instagram, whatever, I'd be curious to hear some of the listeners' opinions on the merger, because it is interesting. And if it goes through, it will be probably the biggest. I would have to double check this, but I would imagine it's probably the biggest purchase / merger of a park chain to ever occur. So
that would be interesting.
It would be a big deal, and certainly we'll look back, if it goes through, we'll look back 20-30 years from now as this was a pivotal moment in the history of the amusement industry, for better or for worse. So should be interesting.
Doing podcasts on the merger.
Yep. So, well, speaking of Cedar Fair, why don't we talk about a Cedar Fair park today?
Okay.
So, we're going to go back to Carowinds today. Now,
well, I haven't been.
I know you haven't been. So, but this will be the first Carowinds coaster we've done this season, first and only. So it's been a minute since we've done Carowinds. Last season, whatever, we did Intimidator and we did Vortex. So those were the two coasters we did last year. Today, we are going to be talking about Copperhead Strike at Carowinds. This is their newest coaster at the park. So, opened in 2019, $26 million, 3,255 feet long, 82 feet tall, with a top speed of 50 miles per hour. Average 2023 wait time, 22 minutes.
That's not bad for a new coaster.
For a new coaster, and the capacity is not great, honestly.
What's the capacity?
The trains only hold 16 people, so the capacity is not excellent. So
how many trains usually?
I think they have 4, but I don't think they ever run 4. I think they usually run 2, 3 at most. So when I went there, they were running 2, but that was later in the summer, so it was a little less busy. So we probably waited. That was the longest line at the park that day when we were there, and we probably waited, I want to say 25 minutes the first time, and maybe 15 or 10 minutes the second time. But pretty much everything else was a walk on that day. So
your dad, right?
No, I went with your brother.
That's right.
Yeah, you're thinking of Knott's Berry Farm is the one you're thinking of. So
I wanted to go to Carowinds, but I ended up watching Parker that day.
Yep. Good times.
Life of a parent.
Yep.
Life of a parent.
That is true. In the coaster bot rankings, Copperhead Strike ranks at number 45 in the country, which is pretty good. Ranks below coasters such as Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Stormrunner at Hershey Park, and Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Universal Studios. I will still never get over how long of a name that is.
That's a very long name.
So long. It ranks above coasters such as Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm, Mr. Freeze at Six Flags Over Texas, and Max Force at Six Flags Great America. At Carowinds, it ranks second, obviously behind the one and only Fury 325. But then it ranks ahead of everything else: Afterburn, Intimidator, Nighthawk, Carolina Cyclone, Vortex, Flying Cobras, Hurler, etc., etc. So, review of the name. I think it's a very good name.
Yeah, it's unique.
Yeah, and that's again with the Six Flags thing, like unique. Just each coaster being able to have its own identity is a big deal to me, and
I can agree with that.
Yeah, and Cedar Fair has been pretty good about that. It's really just their kiddie coasters that they've used the same name over and over with the Woodstock Express, but
right, and the alien ride and
oh yeah, Flight of Fear. Those two are the exact same. Well, I guess Batman the Ride's the exact same ride too. So I don't know why Flight of Fear hasn't bothered me the way the Batman the Rides do. Maybe because Batman the Ride at some parks is an inverted coaster, and other times it's a free spin coaster, so it's just confusing. I don't know. Anyway, yes, I like the name Copperhead Strike. It's a very good name. I also really like this logo.
Yes,
It's a very good logo, and kudos to Cedar Fair. Like all of their new, I would say 2012 on, the Maverick, or the logos. I was thinking of Maverick. I think that was before that though. But anyway, the logos for their coasters have been just really, really good. So kudos to the graphic design department over at Cedar Fair. Good logos for their coasters. So, which a good logo turns into a good sign for the ride, which makes, like, the sign outside of Copperhead Strike looks
do you have
even.
A picture of it?
I do later on in the presentation. So, review of the paint scheme and the trains. The paint scheme's fine. You know, it's orange, which, you know, I think works with the Copperhead. So we'll talk about kind of what the meaning behind it is, because the meaning of the ride and the name isn't what you think. So.
Oh, okay.
Because initially that was my thought too. I was like, it's a snake themed ride. Why is it it's not themed to snakes really? So we'll talk about why. But I do really, really like the trains. The trains look really cool.
Yeah.
And the headlights actually light up at night too.
That's cool.
So when it's going through, like, you know, it just looks great. So I will say they're super comfortable too. So this is by the same company that makes Time Traveler.
Yeah, I was going to mention that those restraints look like.
Yeah, so it's the same company as Time Traveler, so it's the same restraints, which is that big lap bar that comes up and over. Super comfortable. I love the Mack Rides restraints. They're very, very comfortable. So
It always makes or breaks a ride.
it does. It really does. So it makes a big difference. So here's the park's description of the ride. I did cut some of this out because a lot of the description is talking about the story of the ride, which we'll get into later because it kind of fits in with the history. So,
okay.
But here's the description of the actual ride. As the first double-launch roller coaster in the Carolinas, Copperhead Strike delivers twice the boost and twice the bite. Double launch means not only does the ride take off at an incredible 0 to 42 miles per hour in 2.5 seconds, but midway through the second thrust of acceleration launches you into the next half of the experience. A series of fast, tight, close-to-the-ground maneuvers are tangled with 5 head-over-heels inversions, the most of any double-launch coaster in North America. What's more, this serpent of a ride never lets up throughout the entire chase. Over half a mile of steel and adrenaline. Ready for this backwoods adventure? It will be ready for you.
Wow.
So there you go.
Nice screw up too, babe.
Hey, I'm going to make you do it from now on.
Okay. Just so our viewers, if you're new, this is a thing that Nathan does every time. He talks like a dork, so...
Hey, it's not a dork.
It's not a bad thing.
I'll drink my eggnog.
Drink your eggnog to
wash away my sorrows.
Oh, gosh.
Customer reviews. There were no customer reviews on Google.
Weird.
Sometimes Google, like... No one has properly added it into Google Maps, and so like Google just doesn't collect reviews. When I tried to find it on Google Maps, it was called Copperhead Striker, and there was 3 reviews, and so it was weird. So I had to pull these from a different website, but so we won't have as many customer reviews today, but I've got a few. Okay. So this is 4.5 stars. Great ride with forces and theming, essentially a smooth family coaster with inversions and airtime. Only complaint is the S-bends are kind of pointless and sometimes a little painful. Here's another 4.5 star. Hang time isn't my favorite force on a roller coaster, but I'm growing to like it more, and Copperhead Strike does it so well that I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, it had the second longest line of the day for me, which must be due to the small trains, as we talked about. This didn't matter too much, though, with Carowinds' fast operations. I will say that. We haven't talked about Carowinds in a while. Operations, fantastic. Excellent.
You mentioned that. I remember we talking about that. So.
The theming is nice, but I didn't really follow the narrative. I can understand that, too, because like the whole thing where I thought it was just themed to a snake, and no, it's not. There's an actual story here, and I didn't know what it was until I really did my research.
That's funny.
I had a general idea, but it makes more sense now that I know, and it's not obvious. The launches are okay. They're not meant to be the focus of the ride. Overall, it's a well-rounded ride with fun elements. Here's 4.5 stars. Copperhead has some incredible hang time and even some great airtime. Some parts of the coaster are a little boring, though, which is so strange. I kind of don't agree with that. I don't feel like there's any dead spots, so to speak.
See, and
so.
I can't vouch for
right,
anything,
yeah,
so.
Like this. Here's the 4 stars. Copperhead is such a fun multi-launch with a long plethora of great hang time and even some whip-filled inversions, awesome ejector pops, decent positives, and nice laterals, as well as some launches that are pretty fun and don't suck. Definitely no Maverick, but a super fun mock coaster and a great compliment to Carowinds' lineup.
Dude, those are some big words.
I can definitely concur with it's definitely no Maverick, but it's super fun. That's an accurate description for a Copperhead Strike, I feel. So, and then I'm not going to read this whole review here. This is a Yelp review that I just happened across, and it was so funny to me because I'm like, this is so obviously someone that does not ride a lot of coasters, but is trying to pretend like they do. So here's the... I'm just going to read from here. Now, so this is 4 stars, by the way. Now, while I did have fun, I just can't fully enjoy this ride like I wish I could. The 2 full loops do this strange thing where instead of maintaining speed throughout, you noticeably slow at the top. This is accentuated by those dang lap bars. I thought it might have just been where we sat, so I actually rode it twice just to see. No real difference in that, oh dang, we're slowing down, it feels like I'm gonna fall out feeling. I just can't quite get my head around the reasoning on the seats. A simple shoulder harness like most other inversion coasters would have given a much better sense of security while still allowing for hang time in the desired spots. I've ridden all types of thrill rides with all sorts of seats. I've never felt less secure on this ride. So, there was, I can't remember.
Interesting.
There was somewhere else in here, this is a really long review. Oh, here it is. Normally, lap bars are all but exclusively reserved for rides that do not go upside down. See, that right there, the fact that they said that tells me that they have not been on as many big coasters as they tried to say that. Because there's so many coasters nowadays that just have lap bars and go upside down. I mean, any RMC coaster. So if you've been on an RMC coaster, you know that. And Mack Rides the same way. Newer Intamin coasters. Yeah, so it's kind of funny to me. I was like, okay.
Not really.
So there are our customer reviews.
Very
now
nice.
Let's talk about the history of Copperhead Strike at Carowinds. So let's go back
to 1975. All right, 1975. So 2 years after Carowinds opening in 1973, that's where we're at now, the park was sold to Taft Broadcasting, which brought it into the same chain as Kings Island and the newly opened Kings Dominion. We've talked about that before. I'm sure some other Carowinds or Kings Island episode, we've talked all about that. But
okay.
So, in connection with that, park officials announced on January 22nd, 1975, that the park would be receiving a $2 million investment for the 1976 season. And to almost no one's surprise, the investment was a $1.6 million wooden racing coaster built by PTC. Now, it's not a surprise because Kings Island and Kings Dominion, that was both their headline attractions, was those big racing wooden coasters. So it was the Racer at Kings Island, which we've done an episode on, I think episode 8. And then it was called Rebel Yell at the time. Nowadays it's called Racer 75. So those are both ones that you've been on, the Racer and Racer 75 at Kings Dominion, or Kings Island and Kings Dominion. So Taft Broadcasting basically said, we're just going to build another one of those and put it at Carowinds. So this one was a little different. It was 400 feet longer, 5 feet taller, and 2 miles per hour faster. So it was slightly bigger than the one at Kings Island and Kings Dominion.
Okay.
So here are some of the early pictures and stuff from this coaster. So February of 1976, the park announced the name of the new coaster would be Thunder Road. The coaster's theme was inspired by the 1958 movie Thunder Road, which was a drama crime film about moonshine runners. Mm-hmm. So the theme of the ride, essentially what they did, so they got some trains from a coaster that was from a recently retired coaster in Chicago. Okay. They just had the train shipped down to Charlotte. But the team at Carowinds decided to customize them a bit. And so you can see what they did is on the front of one of them, they put a little cop car sheriff, like, you know, from like a cop car, the nose of a car on the front of one, and then it was like a hot rod on the front of the other. And so it was like
it was like chasing it.
Yeah, it was like cops and robbers, except it's not cops and robbers, it was cops and moonshine runners. And so then that was the theme of the ride. And look at this artwork from the announcement is amazing. So you got this guy here with the badge. And then you got this guy here holding the jug of moonshine in the advertisement. Oh, that is great. I love this. So, and then here's a picture of them putting I guess, basically what the guy did is he, if I remember correctly, he carved it out of wood, and then he molded clay on top of that. And then he had a fiberglass guy come in and put fiberglass over the top of that. And then once the fiberglass was done, they took that and put that onto the coaster train. So kind of an intensive process to get the trains looking the way they did. But I've got a commercial here for Thunder Road. Actually, let's do this newspaper article first. Actually, I got this backwards. So this is really funny, okay? Mm-hmm. So this is one of my favorite newspaper articles I've ever read on the show. Ever read.
That's
okay?
hard.
This is so hard. There's been so many good ones. This one, top 5. Easy. This is great. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
So the theme of the ride was moonshine runners, right?
Yeah.
So as they're getting ready for this, they wanted to have like some themed stuff that they could put in the station and around the entrance and whatever. Yeah, makes sense, right? So Carowinds contacts the Federal Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency to see if they can get any like moonshine stills to put outside the ride. So listen to this. Listen to this. So, moments after, this is straight from the article, it says, quote, moments after the raid on this illegal moonshine operation in the mountains of North Carolina, Carowinds personnel dismantled the still and moved it to the park for a display at the new Thunder Road roller coaster.
The Federal Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency also donated a second and larger moonshine still for the display. So literally I don't know, FAT, I don't know whatever this ATF is. Okay, so the ATF agency literally shut down this moonshine operation and calls up Carowinds and says, hey, we got a moonshine still for you if you're looking for one.
That's hilarious.
I can't believe that. I can't believe that's legal to shut this down, this illegal operation, and then send it to a theme park with kids and that's crazy to me. This is just so funny. I don't know. I'm trying to think of some other stuff in here. So here's a quote. It says, through the cooperation of the ATF, we're able to add even greater authenticity to the theme.
Authenticity. Okay.
A larger still, which was capable of producing 1,000 gallons of apple brandy a day. 1,000 gallons. Is to be placed near the ride's exit walkway and will be integrated into the theme of a soft drink stand.
A soft drink stand.
So not only...
It was functional. That's...
They turned it into you can go get your soda at the Moonshine still. This is amazing. I love this so much. Now, I don't know when the stills were taken down because they were not there the whole time. So they were there when it opens in 76, but I don't know when or how long they were there or when they were taken down, but that is just amazing to me. I love that. That is so much fun. Oh man, I love that. All right, you want to
imagine taking Parker and being him asking, "What's that?"
Well, that's the thing. It's can you imagine a park doing that nowadays? Oh my gosh.
Depends on where you go, I guess.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I can see them. I can see parks making a fake one.
That's true.
That seems fine. But to
get
a functional one from the government, that is weird. That is weird. So yeah, and turn it into a soda shop. Yeah, that's very bizarre. All right, here's a commercial
you
for.
Have pictures of it?
I couldn't find pictures of them. I couldn't find it.
So
I know. So, all right, here's a commercial for the coaster for Thunder Road.
Now Hardee's gives you more than our great charbroiled taste. We give you free coupons to save each of you $2.50 at Carowinds, home of Thunder Road. It's the fastest roller coaster you ever screamed on. And then Carowinds will give you more coupons for discounts back at Hardee's. So have your whole family say hello to Hardee's. It's your big chance to take us for a ride.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Hardee's. Yeah, go Hardee's. So Thunder Road would officially open on April 3rd, 1976. Opening was attended by future NASCAR Hall of Famers and Charlotte locals Bobby Allison and David Pearson, which I know for you means nothing, but for me, I was that's pretty cool.
Okay.
So the coaster.
If you haven't listened to previous episodes, Nathan is also a big NASCAR enthusiast.
Yes, I am.
So, hence why he cares.
Well, in Charlotte, it makes a lot of sense too, because that's the home of NASCAR. So there's a lot of NASCAR fans in Charlotte.
Yeah, I completely forgot that.
Yeah. So the coaster was a huge success, became a favorite among the general public and among coaster enthusiasts. But the park was not done yet, because in 1977, just 1 year later, Carowinds would open another roller coaster. So this coaster would be White Lightnin, would be a launch shuttle loop coaster by Schwarzkopf, which we've talked about these dozens of times. There's the one in Knott's Berry Farm. There used to be one at Kennywood, King's Dominion, they're all over the place. Now, fascinatingly enough, White Lightning is a slang term for moonshine. This is another Moonshine themed coaster.
Oh, Moonshine! I love that Moonshine.
I do. In fact, when I was
the employees just like got in party.
I mean, obviously, Moonshine running was a big thing in the South, and probably so obviously in the Carolinas, I imagine. But it's just funny that that's the direction they decide. Like, we're gonna have a Moonshine themed section of the park. But
what the heck?
Yeah. Also, this graphic that I found in the newspaper is really, really cool.
Yeah, I like
so, like, what was the thing that said here? How to lose weight in 48 seconds. because you go through the loop and you experience weightlessness.
Like,
kind of cheesy.
That's cheesy.
Oh, I also like this. Carowinds, a week's worth of fun in one day. Yeah, it's pretty cheesy, too.
Come on, guys.
It was 77, though, I guess.
Too much Moonshine. They can't think straight now.
So, too much.
You just caught on what I said.
Yeah. The thing that's funny, though, is when I was looking for newspaper articles about White Lightnin, I actually found a promotional, like a promo for the Thunder Road movie that the Thunder Road coaster was named after.
Yeah.
And look at this promo. It says, they're running souped-up, stripped-down cars loaded with White Lightnin on Thunder Road. So in the promo, it says White Lightnin and Thunder Road on this promotional thing. So I wonder if someone was, like, watching Thunder Road and, like, one of the Carowinds officials was like, you know, White Lightnin's a pretty good name for a coaster, too. Like,
Probably.
So there you go. So we got these two Moonshine-themed roller coasters at Carowinds in the 70s. This
good old 70s, man. What a time to live.
So Carowinds' slogan for 1977 was "Thunder and Lightnin', twice as frightening."
Oh, that takes the cake for cheesiness. Guys, come on.
Good stuff. So here's White Lightnin' after construction would officially open on May 14th, 1977. So. All right, so Thunder Road and White Lightnin' continue to operate at the park over the next 11 years. The park would finally open a non-Moonshine themed coaster in 1980 with Carolina Cyclone.
Oh, wow, they're evolving.
Yeah, I know. So Carolina Cyclone, that one's still at the park today. First 4-inversion coaster in the world, so it was pretty exciting for the park. That same year, the custom Thunder Road trains were retired in favor of new lightweight trains from PTC, which is kind of a bummer because I really liked the themed cop, like the cop train and the hot rod train. Like,
yeah,
that was a cool idea. These ones are just kind of a generic. That one's white and blue and one's blue and white. It's like, okay, that's fine, I guess. So after that, Carowinds kind of started placing an emphasis on water rides in the early 80s. So they opened a River Rapids ride in 1981. There was a water park that opened in 82. Likely we're finding success with the water rides because of the hot Charlotte summers. So in 1987, the park announced a brand new shoot-the-chute water ride called Whitewater Falls, which... That's kind of like the tidal force at Hershey Park. So it's just those or like what's the one at Kennywood? Pittsburgh Plunge? Is that what it's called? Yeah. So same ride model as those. Just the boat when it comes down and it makes this huge 20-foot wave that can soak people out on the sidewalk just as much as on the ride. So
Pittsburgh Plunge, you get so
so let's see, cost $1.4 million, feature a 45-foot splashdown. This was the first one to open at a non Six Flags park, actually. So this one was one of the very first. Opened in March of 1988 and was very popular on hot days at the park, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And it was right adjacent to the water park, but this was at a time when the water park was actually a separate ticketed park. It was not owned by Carowinds. It was owned by a third party, which is kind of strange. So they like let some company build a water park like right next to them, but like it was ticketed differently. Like it's kind of a strange situation. So, So throughout this time, over through the last 11 years since the opening of White Lightnin', it was having a lot of technical issues. So a lot of
longtime Carowin guests that, I saw online said that it was not uncommon for the coaster to be closed for extended periods of time. I saw someone said that it was like a jackpot if you went to the park and White Lightnin was open that day. Like, that's how bad it was, especially towards the end of its life. So, in September of 1988, Carowinds announced that White Lightnin would be closed at the end of the season. It had just become too much of a headache for the maintenance team. So what ended up happening is they sold White Lightnin. We'll get to where it ended up going in a second here. But then what they ended up doing that year is they actually bought the water park. And then they put basically where White Lightnin was is where they put the new entrance to the water park. And now it was included in the price of admission for Carowinds. So now you could go to Carowinds, pay one price, and you could go to all the dry parts of the dry park, and you could go to the water park, which is how it is nowadays. So, which that was a good deal for the other water rides, like this one, Whitewater Falls, because it's more enticing for people to go on your big water rides, I think, when they're able to go to a water park and like have their bathing suit and like you don't have to walk around in wet clothes all day. So I think that made a difference for this ride for sure.
Yeah, I would get on a ride like that if it was like
if you could wear your bathing suit on this and then go change afterwards, yeah, that would be nice. So
I mean, like, technically, excuse me,
tired mom.
I technically do that anyways, like at Silver Dollar City when we do Mystic River. Like, I don't know.
That's true. It's just easier to do if they have like locker rooms.
Actual, locker room. Yeah, they're nice, so. But I just use that bathroom that's close by. You get really wet on that ride, so I don't like walking around with like wet clothes.
That's why they got those the big family dryers outside.
Work.
No, they don't.
They don't work. They're
well, in
just asking for your money.
Yeah.
Sorry, Silver Dollar City, not sorry. So, but that's the honest truth.
Yep, sad but true. So White Lightnin was actually sold to Gold Reef City, which is a popular amusement park in South Africa. Not only that, but it actually continues to operate to this day, which is pretty cool. So it is called Golden Loop, is what it operates as nowadays. So if you want to ride White Lightnin, you still can. You just have to go to South Africa to do so.
Hey, that's on my bucket list.
There you go.
To Africa.
After the opening of the new water park, it's called Riptide Reef was the new name of the water park.
Okay.
They would kind of take a break from water attractions and focus kind of on roller coasters again. So that included the 1992 opening of Vortex, which was our last Carowinds episode. Then in 1993, Taft Broadcasting, which was owned by Paramount basically decided that they wanted to have a bigger presence in the parks, and so they didn't necessarily purchase them because they kind of already own them. I don't know, this is kind of a complicated situation, but essentially all of the parks that Taft Broadcasting owned became the Paramount parks. So Carowinds became known as Paramount's Carowinds, and that included Paramount IPs throughout that brought Nickelodeon and Top Gun, all these other things that came to the park over time. So but one of the rides that retained its original theming was Thunder Road. I don't know if that's because Thunder Road was a Paramount property. I don't think it was, but maybe. I don't know. I'd have to double check on that. But Thunder Road did stay the same. It kept the same name, same theme. Maybe that's when the Moonshine stills went away. Who knows? Now,
if you know when Moonshine stills went away, let us know, because that'd be very interesting to find out.
If you know, if you're a longtime Carowinds fan, if that's your home park, when did the Moonshine stills go away? And who has them? I imagine.
Could you imagine them auctioning those off to fans of the ride?
I have to imagine that the government probably took them when they got rid of them, because they probably were not sold to the park. They were probably on loan to the park, I imagine.
What? Lame.
Let's see. In 1995, Thunder Road would follow in the steps of the racer at Kings Island, and one side of the coaster would operate backwards trains. So this was done on all three of those coasters. It was done on the Racer, it was done on Rebel Yell, and it was done on Thunder Road. That one side was forward and one side was backward. So I don't know why it took them so long to do it on the other ones, because the Racer, they did it. We talked about this in the Racer episode, so if you want to learn more about that coaster, go and check that out. I think it was episode 8, maybe episode 9, somewhere in there. But essentially, they flipped that one around because they were having issues with the new coaster they just opened that year. And so to appease the guests, they said, well, what if we do this? And they flipped one of the trains backwards on the Racer. And I guess it was just many years later that Carowinds is like, it'd be kind of fun if we did that on Thunder Road, too. So they did. So starting in 95, you could ride Thunder Road forward or backward, which a lot of people loved. The coaster would continue to operate like that until, as we discussed in the Racer episode in 2008, when Cedar Fair took over. Cedar Fair made the decision to flip all the trains back around to face forward for safety reasons. So that was done on all three of the coasters at the same time. The Racer, Rebel Yell, and Thunder Road. They all had to flip their trains back around in 2008.
I wanted to ride on the thing backwards.
I know, that would be fun. So, that same year, GCI was brought in to retrack major portions of Thunder Road, which GCI has also done the same for the Racer and for Rebel Yell at King's Dominion, and they've done awesome work for both of those. So I imagine Thunder Road was really, really running very well in 2008-2009 timeframe. So yeah. So by the early 2010s, so a couple years after this refurb that GCI did, Cedar Fair made it pretty clear that they wanted to invest heavily into Carowinds, largely in parts to the fact that Charlotte is one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And so there's just a lot of opportunity there. And so Cedar Fair
is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice place. And so Cedar Fair has basically made Carowinds, I would say, top 3 or 4 parks in the chain. And when they bought it, it was not that way. Like it was not bad, but it was not at the level of like a Cedar Point or a Kings Island. And I would argue that it's pretty close to them nowadays. So,
yeah.
So by 2015, the park was planning on adding $50 million worth of investments. This included a brand new entrance to the park, several new rides, and the one and only Fury 325. So that obviously was a huge addition to the park, and really, if it wasn't on coaster enthusiasts' radar already, Fury 325 certainly put it there, because that was a huge deal, and still is. I mean Fury,
that's your favorite.
It's my favorite coaster I've been on, so it's a Fury 325 was a huge deal for Carowinds. So
I'm still a little bitter that I haven't been on it. I should have gone with you guys.
Nah, that's all right. We'll get back there someday.
Someday is the key word. I'm going to be 80 by the time we go back.
That's not true. I can't wait that long to ride Fury again.
We'll be gone.
So, with this first phase of expansion complete, park officials were eager to expand on their already successful water park. There was just one problem. Only one thing stood in their way. Thunder Road stood in the way. So the way the park had grown over the last 40 years, so here's kind of, this is like 2012-ish probably. Mm-hmm. So this is Thunder Road right here. Just a very long and skinny layout. But you can see the water park starts like here and ends here, and it just borders the entire water park on the one side. And so, and
it's kind of an inconvenient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the problem, right? So essentially, if they were going to expand the water park at all, they couldn't expand it, one direction. And so if they were going to make any, expansions, it would have to be at the expense of Thunder Road. I have wondered if they could have made the expansion, because like the Racer, they had the same problem, but they just built a path under the Racer and then started building on the other side of it. That's why Flight of Fear and Orion are over on the other side of the Racer from the rest of the park. So, I don't know. I don't know why there must be some reason why they couldn't have done it with Thunder Road. Maybe because there'd be just, I don't know. There's got to be a reason, but I don't know that reason.
But 6 weeks after Fury 325 opened, so they opened this huge coaster, right? Makes huge splash in the industry. 6 weeks later, Carowinds announced that Thunder Road would be closing in 2 months. The closing of Thunder Road has been one of the most controversial coaster closings in recent years.
Really? Why?
Just because a lot of coasters are closed because, one, they're not popular, two, they have maintenance problems, right? That's like usually a coaster will close for one of those two reasons. Like people aren't riding it anymore, or it's just too expensive to operate. It's very rare that you have a coaster that's torn down just because it's in the way. Like you want to build something else, because Thunder Road was still fairly popular. I don't know for certain what the wait times were, but I mean, you ride the racer at Kings Island, you still wait 45 minutes for that ride.
Right.
So I imagine Thunder Road was probably in the same category, especially because it had just been refurbed, 7 years prior to this.
Right.
So it was a big deal. Like it was to the point that coaster enthusiasts had started a petition. And that petition got over 5,500 people to sign it. So I don't know how big that is, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. But,
right.
I mean, that's a decent amount of people. It's not, it's not 500 people. 5,500, that's a decent amount. So definitely would, catch people's eye, I think. So, hashtag Save Thunder Road was kind of a big thing that, people were posting. But the park had...
What is that? Is that Instagram?
Well, no, this is like, I think it was literally like petitions.org or something like that was the name of the site.
It's interesting that they even used hashtags.
Yeah, I don't know. So,
huh.
But, I mean, this was at a time where Twitter and Instagram were a thing, so maybe they just were using the Instagram from the hashtag from both of those sites over on this one. So, but Park had already made up their mind, and Thunder Road had a final celebration on July 26, 2015. Featured commemorative merchandise and prizes to those who attended. I think I read correctly that for the last 2 weeks, the first 2 trains of the day, everybody got a commemorative poster. So, like, you'd have to be rope drop the park, and you'd have to run over to Thunder Road, and if you were on one of the first 2 trains of the day, then you got like a free commemorative poster that they didn't sell to just anybody. So
interesting.
Kind of interesting. So after giving its final rides, the coaster was swiftly demolished in August of that year. Spare parts were sent to Kings Island and Kings Dominion for maintenance purposes on the Racer and Racer 75. So if you're riding the Racer or Racer 75, chances are there might be a part that came from one of the trains on Thunder Road.
So special.
So to this day, Thunder Road, if you watch YouTube videos of the 10 most missed roller coasters or whatever, you'll see Volcano the Blast Coaster on there. You'll see the Dueling Dragons from Universal Studios. Thunder Road will make that list a lot. It's one of those coasters that people... There was the only reason it went away wasn't because people didn't like it. It's because it just was in the way of what the park wanted to do next. And so, so a lot of people are still sad that Thunder Road is gone. And you can still, when you go to Carowinds nowadays, if you're looking at their nano coasters that you can buy, you can still buy Thunder Road nano coasters at the park. They still produce them because people keep buying them. People just have a soft spot in their heart and they're like, oh, I miss Thunder Road. So...
That's funny that they still have merchandise. I wouldn't expect that.
There's a couple like that. What was the Disaster Transport from Cedar Point? The one that got replaced by Gatekeeper. You could go on Cedar Point's website and you can still buy posters for Disaster Transport and stuff like that. People just and I get it. Especially if it's a family coaster, which Thunder Road is kind of borderline thrill coaster, but I could see if you're 10 and this is your first time going to a theme park, this could be your first roller coaster you ever rode, right?
Right.
And so, I can see people being sentimental for reasons like that. Even, Fire in the Hole. Some people probably would be Fire in the Hole's going away. Okay, sure, fine.
Yeah, that's
whatever. But, for me, growing up riding it, it's a big deal to me. And, if they keep selling Fire in the Hole merchandise for, the old one... I would keep buying it, even 20, 30 years from now. But it's a little different since they're basically just redoing it instead of getting rid of it entirely. But like, what if Powder Keg closed tomorrow? Would you still buy Powder Keg stuff 20, 30 years from now? I would. I'd be like, oh, I miss Powder Keg.
I don't think I would.
Really?
No.
That's funny. I don't think you're as sentimental as I am.
I'm not as sentimental as you are.
Yeah, I would definitely. I'd be like, oh, I miss Powder Keg.
See, like, even like Phantom, like at Kennywood, I'm like, eh.
Like if Phantom's Revenge closed down, you wouldn't be like, oh, I miss Phantom's Revenge.
I mean, I would miss it. I want to buy stuff to like make it.
That's funny. Interesting.
Like, it's just stuff. It's just gonna collect dust.
There's lots of stuff we have in this house that just collects dust.
It's true. That's why I don't want any more.
Oh dear. I'm just lucky you let me put my Outlaw Run Nano Coaster on a shelf in the living room.
Let is a word. Well,
you wouldn't let me keep it on the mantle, so our cooperation was to put it on one of the shelves. That's the life of a coaster enthusiast.
I can't believe it's sitting up there. It's coming down for Christmas.
What?
Don't give me what?
Just put some lights on it.
It's too small. It's called a nano coaster for a reason.
Little jingle bells on it. Mistletoe.
Cover it. It's too small for any decorations. It can go in your office for a couple months while I decorate for Christmas.
Sad day. It was for the off season.
Hopefully you'll forget about putting it back up. So.
Wow. Rude. Oh, back to this, I suppose.
Yeah. Yep.
The following year, as portions of Thunder Road's plot were replaced by a new water slide complex. So here's before, here's after.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
so they put these water slides here, cut out some of the parking lot, and then they put a new wave pool in over here. So now they have 2 wave pools.
I was gonna say that there's 2.
They have 2 wave pools. So I don't know if one's like
the hype over wave pools.
I hate wave pools. They freak me out.
I'd rather have a pool.
Wave pools freak me out. I've been in one time, and I was like, I feel like I'm gonna die.
They scare me.
Our kids are not allowed to wave
pools. As a lifeguard, I'm like, that's terrifying.
Oh yeah, for sure. I bet you have a completely different view on that.
I would be freaked out to lifeguard those. No thanks.
Yeah. So this water slide complex looks fun. Not as fun as a roller coaster, but
I'm not a big water slide.
Nah, that's part of the problem too. Because like I could see where this was probably a worthwhile investment for them. Because honestly, like sometimes when I'm going to these parks in the summer, like when I went to Holiday World, all of the coasters, like I was there like mid-June, right? So like everyone's out of school,
right?
But all the coasters were like walk-ons all day,
right?
But the water park was slammed. So, like, I can see where, from a business perspective, like, this makes sense for them to tear out an old coaster and put in some new water slides because the water park is what's bringing in, a good amount of money.
Yeah.
But for people like you and I that really, water parks are fine. Like, if someone's, I don't know, like, if I had time to go do the water park and the coasters, I would. Like, when I was at Holiday World, I looked at the water slides and I was like, that looks fun. I wish I had time to do those too, but I didn't. So the coasters, obviously, where, my emphasis lies.
Right.
And so, I don't know. For coaster enthusiasts like myself, it's sad to see this happen. A coaster that was almost 40 years old get torn down for some water slides is kind of like, shot to the heart, but... From a business perspective, I'm like, okay, makes sense. So, but so they renamed the water park Carolina Harbor when they did this, and that's what it's still called nowadays.
Okay.
They also closed down around the same time they closed down Whitewater Falls, which here, where is it at? Oh, it's right here. It's actually torn down already in this picture. You can see it here. That's before they tore it down,
okay.
And then they tore it out right there.
Is it just like a log ride, or
that was the like the one at Hershey Park and like Pittsburgh Plunge, the one with the big wave. Yeah. So they're called shoot the chute rides is what they're called. So
So the park didn't really give an explanation why Whitewater Falls was taken out, but it kind of stood there standing but not operating until the end of the 2017 season before they finally took it out. So, and then one last thing on Thunder Road here. During the Carowinds Halloween event, which, by the way, I love that name, you can find a big headstone for Thunder Road, which actually they took one of the seat, like the back of the car or the back of the train or something, and attached to it.
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it says, Thunder Road, although we had our ups and downs, we traveled great lengths together. Now Silver and Blue are no longer around, but our memories will last forever.
Aww.
There you go.
There you go. There's my
rest in peace, Thunder Road.
That's good. Take a picture of that. That's my sentimentalness right there. So
that's your level of sentimental is just put it on a headstone.
Take a picture of it.
Take a picture. So
there you go.
Okay, so what does all of this have to do with Copperhead Strike? Well, in 2018, Carowinds began teasing a huge announcement regarding the plot of land where Whitewater Falls once stood. So starting in June, the park began putting up posters on the construction walls that kind of surrounded that area, teasing an upcoming attraction. So you can really dive into all the Easter eggs that are in all the signs. These are just some of them. There were dozens of them, and all of them had little bits and Easter eggs. The marketing team had so much fun with Copperhead Strike's marketing campaign. But the one I will call out is there was this poster for White Lightning, specifically White Lightning spark plugs, harness the efficiency, guaranteed over 137 miles. 137, that's how tall White Lightning was, so that's the tie-in there. So a little callback to White Lightning, which was the only other launch coaster at Carowinds before Copperhead Strike. So that was kind of a fun little tie-in there. Keen-eyed enthusiasts noticed shipments coming from Mack Rides, and so that seemed to confirm a new roller coaster coming to that area. Throughout July and August, more posters appeared over time, as did teases on social media, including a campaign that was simply called Granny's Epic Secret, in which the social media team made subtle hints to the layout and theme of the ride while describing Granny's secret recipe.
Oh.
It'll make sense in a few minutes. So here were the ingredients: 3,255 hand-picked berries, 530 teaspoons of sugar, 2 spoonfuls of Granny's secret ingredient.
What? What is this?
Start by rolling ingredients into a copper pot. Place pot over high heat. Quickly bring the mixture to a full boil in 2.5 seconds. Allow the temperature inside the pot to reach 42 degrees Celsius. And so it goes on and on. Basically, if you look... We'll get into it. We'll get into it. Just give me a second. So this marketing campaign is going on through June, through July, through August, building up big hype. Carowinds said it was their biggest announcement to date, so people were like, how are they going to top Fury?
Right.
So it's a big deal. Finally, on August 30th, 2018, Carowinds officially announced Copperhead Strike, a $26 million multi-launch coaster by Mack Rides. The new attraction was to open alongside a new themed area called Blue Ridge Junction, which had some restaurants and I think another ride opened with it, like a flat ride. So here is the announcement video for Copperhead Strike.
Maybe you've heard of the legend of Granny Byrd and her prize-winning jam. But I bet you haven't heard her secret. Those who have know the best thing to do is... run!
So it's just... Well, it's showing the coaster, putting some of the stats on the screen, so...
Stop.
I wish all sunsets looked like that. Darn fake sunsets. It doesn't make
There
any
you go.
sense. Find out what Granny's secret ingredient is and you run? I'm so confused.
Okay, you ready to find out what the story is?
Sure.
Here you go.
Okay.
Here's the story. Everybody knew about her delicious concoction. Best for miles around. This is straight from the website, by the way.
Okay.
She'd won blue ribbons at the county fair for 40 years with that jam, but no more. Granny Byrd's recipe is gonna be yours, but to get your hands on it, you gotta head way out to a rundown, broken down farm at the far edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Word has it there are a lot of copperheads around there, so be careful. When you get to the farm's huge barn, that's gotta be the headquarters of her jam operation with all that banging and clanging. You get the strange sense that something's not right. Peeking in, you see that she's cooking something all right, and in big copper vats, but it sure ain't jam. It's something with quite a bit more bite that could get you in a huge heap of trouble if you're caught with it. After a sudden commotion, a shrill voice hollers, "Trespassers, y'all get out of here!" A gun cocks and you hightail it out. Do you get it?
I mean, I guess it would be just moonshine.
It's another moonshine themed coaster. They love their moonshine coasters here at Carowinds.
Apparently.
So that's the story. So the story is that Granny is, she makes jam as a front, but really in the background she's making moonshine. So
All right.
now the name Copperhead Strike comes from the saying Copperhead Road, which is an old code word for anything to do with moonshine. For example, a person might say that they were headed up to Copperhead Road to help a friend, which would be code for I'm helping my friend make moonshine on the weekend or whatever, right?
Okay.
I also think Copperhead is a slang term for a moonshine still. So like I think that's the tie in there as well. So in that sense, Copperhead Strike became a spiritual successor of Thunder Road and White Lightnin because it's another moonshine-themed coaster.
It's a bit ridiculous.
In fact, if you go in Copperhead Strike Station, you can find a sign.
You can find the distillery? Is that where they put him?
There is a still on the ride, but I don't know if it's the same one. But you can find a sign for Centurion Motor Oil, and the saying underneath it, Thunder and lightning, twice the frightening.
Oh my gosh.
So straight, you go in the station and there's this, this sign right there that's paying tribute to the old coaster. So, but not only is it a spiritual successor to those two coasters, is actually, so if you look at the map here again, so here's Thunder Road. So now as you look at Copperhead Strike, which is right here, there's a small portion, this little section right here. So not like a lot, most of it is where Whitewater Falls was down this way. But there is a small section here that crosses over where the lift hill and the final brake run used to be for Thunder Road. So while it is a spiritual successor, it does technically sit on some of the plot of land where Thunder Road once stood as well. So there you go. So the coaster wasn't the tallest or fastest or longest, but the coaster had several unique features, including the most inversions on a multi-launch coaster in North America, and a rare JoJo roll directly out of the station, which, for those of you who don't know, a JoJo roll is essentially you leave the station and go...
I don't think I've even
you go directly into a barrel roll right out of the station. It's just super slow. Like it's named after the guy that came up with it. His name was Joe. And so they called it the JoJo roll. So there you go. So it's only the second time that inversion had been used on a coaster at that point. So the first was Hydra the Revenge at Dorney Park. So the second launch is also on an airtime hill rather than on a section of flat track. So like most launches, it's just like flat and straight, right? The second launch, you come into it at 35 miles per hour and it launches you up to 50, but you're going over an airtime hill as you're speeding up. It's a pretty unique experience. It's pretty fun. So
I think I would like that.
Yeah, so let's see. After a relatively short construction period, so here are some pictures from construction. Now, they constructed this from like September through March. And so a lot of that time, the park was still open. So a lot of people
They say it's probably one of the most photographed coaster constructions of all time.
Not working in the snow.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's much better than doing it at Cedar Point during the off season.
Hershey
Oh my
Park,
gosh!
Yeah.
Here's that JoJo roll actually right here, directly out of the station. So you come into here, you do this barrel roll, and then you come in here, and this is the launch building right here. So
I still would hate being a construction worker for a roller coaster.
Oh, just because of being like up in the air. You don't like heights. It's like when that picture where we looked at Millennium Force, the guys doing the work at the top of the lift hill.
It makes me nauseous still, just thinking about it.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Which is so funny, because it's just like, I never would have thought me to be one of afraid of heights, but I just... It's just gotten worse with age, and like, no thank you.
Yeah, so relatively short construction period for how big the coaster is, but they would open without any delays on March 23rd, 2019, and it continues to operate to this day. I would hope so. It was only a few years ago. So, ride experience is as follows. The ride starts with a slow JoJo roll out of the station before a right-hand turn into Granny's Jam building. After a dramatic scene in the building, riders are launched from 0 to 42 miles per hour out of the building and into the first of 2 vertical loops. The loop is designed so that the train slowly traverses the top of the loop, providing tons of hang time. The train then careens into an airtime hill and a fast-paced corkscrew before hitting a turnaround and jumping into the next launch. The launch boosts the speed from 35 to 50 miles per hour, which is the top speed, as it traverses an airtime hill and speeds into a cutback element at the highest point of 82 feet. That is followed by the second vertical loop that goes around the track following the second launch. The train then does a stangle dive to the right as it passes through the middle of the first loop. The ride finishes with several low-to-the-ground twists and turns, very reminiscent of a snake, before hopping over one final airtime hill and into the final brakes. Some enthusiasts have criticized the coaster's lack of intensity, particularly the launch. And some enthusiasts may even consider it a family coaster. Personally, I loved Copperhead Strike, and
I remember you talking about it when you came home.
Yeah, so the thing for me, what I ultimately decided why I liked it so much is I think I enjoy a coaster that does a lot of things. Like, I don't like...
You like a lot of the different aspects.
Yes,
of the coaster.
Coasters that are a one-trick pony, I still enjoy them.
Sorry,
the
chair just squeaking.
I enjoy coasters that are kind of a one-trick pony, like a Diamondback at Kings Island. Really, just it's the floater airtime, right?
Right.
But I really enjoy coasters that are able to do a lot of things well. And Copperhead Strike, you get hang time in the inversions. You get, a crazy amount of hang time on that JoJo roll out of the station too. And then you have a launch. You get lots of airtime for several different moments of airtime. You get some laterals through the corkscrew and through the stangle dive through the second loop. And so there's just a lot going on with Copperhead Strike. Like, it's just a lot of fun. No, it's not as intense as Fury 325 or Steel Vengeance or Maverick or whatever. And to be fair, I rank those 3 coasters above Copperhead Strike. But I think I enjoyed it a lot more than the average enthusiast. I have Copperhead Strike. I think I've ranked number 10 out of all the coasters that I've been on. So it's just as right at the bottom of my top 10. But I mean, that puts it ahead of things like, I think I have it ahead of Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom. I've got it ahead of Outlaw Run.
Run.
Yeah, like I've Phantom's Revenge. I know, like, it's just so much fun. It's not as intense as any of those 3.
Rude.
But you're always offended when I like something more than Phantom's Revenge.
True.
Unless it's Twisted Timbers. That's the only exception to that.
Twisted Timbers. I think still is.
Twisted Timbers. Mwah! So good. Twisted Timbers I have in my top 5.
Chef's kiss.
Oh, Twisted Timbers, so good. But yeah, Copperhead Strike's so much fun. So I see why some enthusiasts give it a hard time, but I think it's great. It's a very re-rideable too because it's not super intense. So I could ride it all day over and over and over again. So,
do you think this would be one that I put on my top 10?
I don't know about your top 10. You definitely would like it though. So it's a lot of fun. So. Let's see. Coaster would only place third in the Golden Ticket Awards for Best New Coaster in 2019, but it was up against some stiff competition. The winner for that year was actually Steel Curtain at Kennywood. And finishing...
Steel Curtain's never open.
Oh, that's such a problem. But it's a great coaster. So.
When it's open.
When it's open, it's fantastic. And Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure at Universal Studios finished second. So, which... I understand why people like that one. I haven't been on it personally, but I'm familiar enough with it that I know why people like it so much. So
right.
I don't have like a whole lot more to cover just because the ride's only been open for 4 years.
Right.
The last thing I did want to cover, which is not necessarily pertaining to the ride itself, but it does pertain to the surrounding area because it did open with this new themed area called Blue Ridge Junction.
Yeah.
Blue Ridge Junction has tons of Cedar Fair Easter eggs, like for all kinds of things. Like, so I'm going to pull up, I have this article here. This is from Coaster 101. So if you want to go and look at all these different Easter eggs that the Carowinds design team put in this area, it's awesome. Like they had so much fun with this, and like this is stuff where I watch and I'm like, man, I would be so good at doing stuff like this because this looks like so much fun.
You're so dorky with your jokes.
I know. So the article is called "Examining the Easter Eggs of Carowinds Blue Ridge Junction." So if you want to go and look at all these, I'm not going to cover all of them because there's a lot here, but some of the ones that really stuck out to me. So there's this Kings Mills auto livery. I don't know how you say that. That is direct call to Kings Island. I mean, it even says here, "Tour the island with style." And that says Coney 72. I mean, it's just direct callback to Kings Island. You have Racer Radio, which is a callback to the racer at Kings Island. It even says PTC approved on here, which is the name of the manufacturer. The radio station is 197.2, 1972, the year that Kings Island opened. There's another one here for Rivertown's Finest Flavor by Miami River Lumber Company. That is the name of the lumber company for Mystic Timbers. You have Hanover Hill Orchard, which is the name of the company from Twisted Timbers, the apple orchard that gets, taken over. Apple Zapple is the name of the drink that they're advertising, which is the name of the coaster right next to Twisted Timbers. Here's another one for Hanover Hill Orchard and Market. Look at this. Now liquidating our gently used agricultural equipment. Out of this world savings event, storm damaged tools and machines of all kinds. That's so funny. Then they have Southern Star Organic Strawberries by Knott's Berry Farm. So it's just, there's all kinds of stuff in here. It's really fun.
That's so funny.
Here's the White Lightning spark plugs that was sent from earlier.
Like at least an hour looking at all these.
I know. Here's this one's great. If it's Miami River Lumber Company, it's right. Powerful enough to drill through steel with a vengeance.
Steel vengeance. That one's good.
So that one's a Mystic River or a Mystic Timbers and a Steel Vengeance callback in the same poster. That's pretty funny. There's one, Thunder Road Dragway, which is a direct callback to Thunder Road, obviously. But there's a bunch on here. Look at this. Dispatch Master Transport is one of the sponsors. That's from Dispatch Master Transport from Disaster Transport. What else is on here? Leviathan Lumber Company. That's from Canada's Wonderland. Hanover Hill Apple Orchard again. Twisted Timbers. Hangar 18 Research Compound. That's Flight of Fear. Like, there's just all kinds of stuff on here. The people at Carowinds must have had a heyday just putting all kinds of stuff on here.
You would have so much fun.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. So here's a poster called Dragon Iron Motor Oil, which is it's just Iron Dragon from Cedar Point.
Oh, yeah.
Cyclone Twister Aerodynamic. That's callback to Carolina Cyclone.
See, you know so many like coasters off the top of your head. I'm like, it's taking me a minute to think of which coaster's which.
Well, and to be fair, these I did look at beforehand when I was compiling all this.
Cheated.
So I didn't cheat. I know these, but I also, some of these I had to read and figure them out, and now I just know exactly what it is when I look at it the first time.
Okay,
so
okay.
Here, you'll know this one. Look at this one. Maverick Motor Oil. It's really funny. It's just so obvious. And then the very last one, Mystic Chainsaw Oil from the Miami River Lumber Company. There's so many Mystic River ones. Or Mystic... I get confused because it's Miami River Lumber Company, but it's Mystic Timbers. But then I get confused because I'm thinking of Mystic River Falls at Silver Dollar City. Anyway.
Right.
So many fun Easter eggs over at Blue Ridge Junction where Copperhead Strike is. And so they had a lot of fun with that. So I would say Copperhead Strike is very well themed too. The queue is really well themed. Like there's like an old cabin like in the queue.
Yeah.
And like, there's things throughout the queue to look at. And then when you pull into the launch building, like there's just all kinds of things going on. There was some I read in there that I didn't even notice when I was on the ride. Apparently the chickens in there, when you launch, they like lay a bunch of eggs because they get scared by the launch. Like
that's awesome.
I didn't even know that happened. So
that's funny.
They Carowinds brought in a team of I can't remember the name of the company that they brought in to do all the design work for the
okay.
So there and there's a still in the launch building. I don't think it's one of the stills from Thunder Road.
Darn.
So, but there you go. And there you have it. That is the history of Copperhead Strike at Carowinds. And by relation, also the history of Thunder Road, the sorely missed Thunder Road, and the less sorely missed White Lightning.
There you go.
There you have it.
Killing 3 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah. I thought about doing Thunder Road as a Halloween special.
Right.
But I just... because they both have a Moonshine theme, they felt closely related enough that it had to be part of the story of Copperhead Strike. So I would almost guarantee that the theme for Copperhead Strike was inspired by Thunder Road and White Lightning. Like they just kind of, because they had other Moonshine themed coasters in there, like they thought they'd do a modern take on the Moonshine theme. So kind of interesting. So, well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the podcast, and apologize if we seem a little tired. We are. A lot tired. It was past midnight as we were recording this, but we're plugging along. We only have 3 more episodes. 3. We only have 3 more episodes. 3? Yes, 3. Sorry. We only have 3 more episodes this season. So we're going to make sure we get those 3 episodes out. And then we'll have a break at the end of December. We will do early January. We'll do a Coaster Conversations episode talking about the CoasterBot 2023 results. But other than that, we'll be taking a break for a few months.
Don't miss us too much.
Yeah, but it'll be good for us to get a break, time with the baby, probably get a little bit ahead writing out my scripts for the podcast.
Yeah.
So that way we're not as,
not scrambling.
Yeah, not scrambling to get things recorded with the kids and all that. So, but thanks for your support. If you haven't yet, be sure to go and leave a 5-star rating for the podcast on Spotify. You can just do that at the top of the page, at the top of the podcast page. We know some of you have already done that, and we really appreciate it. It helps people find the podcast in the future. And and be sure to go follow us on social media. Like we mentioned at the top of the hour, you can go see the pictures and videos that I showed Haiti throughout today's episode. And I think that's all we have. Drink your moonshine responsibly. And,
oh my gosh. Don't drink your moonshine and drive.
Just don't drink moonshine at all.
I was just thinking about the one time we went to what's that one park? It was King's. I think it was King's. Dominion. I think it was King's Dominion.
What is it you're thinking of?
And then he was like, we were drinking our liquid courage. So
oh yeah, there's
Moonshine was the liquid courage.
They were two guys standing outside of Intimidator 305, and they were just looking up at it, and we were walking away from it because we had just been on it, and they were like, "Is it any good?" And we're like, "Yeah, that was awesome." And they're like, all right, we're just drinking. They had a couple of beers, and they're like, we're just drinking our liquid courage, trying to get the energy to go on it. Which, by the way, don't drink and then immediately get on Intimidator 305.
You will shut down the ride. Mm-hmm. You will get sick, I promise.
Yikes. All right, well, that's it for today's episode, and we will see you in the next one.